the tree. The tree is smaller than the building. Let's look at some spelling rules when using comparative adjectives. If the adjective has one syllable, for example, old, we add er to make the comparative older. We do the same for some two-syllable adjectives as well. For example, quiet. The comparative of quiet is quieter. Adjectives that end in e, such as large, have an r added to them. Therefore, the comparative form of the word large is larger. For adjectives ending in y, such as happy, the y is removed and ier is added. The comparative form of happy is happier. For adjectives ending in ow, such as shallow, er is added. The comparative form of shallow is shallower. For adjectives ending in a consonant, a vowel, and then another consonant, for example, big, the final consonant is doubled and er is added. Therefore, the comparative of big is bigger. For many two-syllable adjectives and adjectives with 3 or more syllables, we add more or less before the adjective. For example, the comparative form of boring is more boring or less boring. The comparative form of interesting is more interesting or less interesting. There are some adjectives that have 2 possible comparative forms. More or less can go before them, or er can be added. For example, for the adjective clever, we can say cleverer, or we can say more clever. Additionally, there are irregular adjectives. We must remember the comparative form of these. For example, the comparative form of good is better, and the comparative form of bad is worse. When we are comparing two things using comparative adjectives, we should use the word than. For example, summer is hotter than winter. Mathematics is more difficult than English. However, when we already know what is being compared, we don't need to use than. For example, I like winter, but I think summer is better. Mathematics is difficult. I like English because it is easier. When we want to make a comparison stronger, we can use much and a lot. For example, summer is much hotter than winter. Cars are a lot more expensive than bicycles. When we want to say two things are equal, we can use as plus adjective plus as. For example, my bike is as fast as your bike. This house is as big as the other house. Notice we do not change the adjective into comparative form when we use as. Also, we can use not with as plus adjective plus as to say that one thing is not equal to another thing. For example, Spain is not as hot as the UAE in the summer. My sister is not as tall as my brother. Let's test ourselves. Look at the images below and think of comparative sentences you can make. Pause the video and write down your ideas, then return to the video to see if you were right. For the images below, we can say, Mariam is taller than Nadia. Mariam is much taller than Nadia. Nadia is not as tall as Mariam. Nadia is not very tall. Mariam is much taller. Let's look at two more things to compare. Pause the video and write down some sentences, then return to the video. That's right, we can say, the red car is more expensive than the blue car. The red car is a lot more expensive than the blue car. The blue car is not as expensive as the red car.